Madridistas, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Madrid. So much to discuss. Let's do a quick update on what's been going on. We'll talk about the Copa America, the horrendous Brazil-Uruguay match that knocked Brazil out of the tournament, and we'll talk about our boys, obviously, on the Brazilian squad and Fede. We'll talk about the Euro, obviously, through the lens of our players, of the England match, the Holland-Turkey match, and France-Portugal. And then we'll talk about some of the latest news. So basically the Killian Mbappe presentation here at the Bernabeu. We'll talk about the latest in terms of Leno and Alphonso Davies. I'll even briefly mention the Rabiot rumors that have been going around in some circles. And then just a couple of thoughts, generally speaking, in terms of the squad for next year and Ancelotti. But anyway, welcome back to the channel. Lots of really juicy stuff to talk about. Thanks for joining me again. Let's get started. Madridistas, welcome back. Okay, let's start off with the Copa America and the Brazil-Uruguay match. And I don't know if you guys had a chance to see this. This was an absolutely atrocious match. So ugly, just really, really ugly. Look, there is a bit of a legacy sometimes in the Copa America that sometimes games can get a little bit rough. Uruguay has always had a reputation for being a very physical side. This was just way beyond the pale. This match was constantly interrupted with fouls. I think Uruguay, the tally of fouls was something like 26, and I think it was in the high teens for Brazil. A horrendous match. Uruguay kind of managed to drag Brazil down into this really physical, kind of ugly, destructive football. Now, Vini didn't start the match. He had received a red card very unjustly in the prior match and was unable to play. The refereeing in the competition has been very, very suspect. I don't know how much you guys have been watching it, but I think the refereeing has been appalling in some cases, and clearly to the detriment of Brazil, in my view. But the match, the sort of very horrible match went into penalties, and Brazil missed two of the first three. Militao, one of the players that missed, and Uruguay will go through. In terms of the players, Fede in Uruguay had a very solid performance. He's got 17 lungs, as you all know. Ran a lot, defended well. Carried the ball in midfield very well. He had a very complete game. Made his penalty as well in the round of penalties. I think on the Brazilian side, I think Enrique and Rodrigo had a very, very frustrating match. There was just no flow to this game at all. They got very little in the way of service. It was very hard for either of them to really build anything. The game was constantly interrupted. I think Militao did a decent job defensively. But he had a couple of scares. Every time he went down, and it looked like he was hurt, I was panicking. But I think defended pretty well. But of course, missed the penalty, and sadly, that's what everybody will remember. Now, obviously, this is kind of not great for Vini's Ballon d'Or push. We were kind of hoping that Brazil would do well in the tournament and just kind of support Vini's candidacy for Ballon d'Or. I still think he deserves it, and I still think he'll win it. But, it's kind of a shame that Brazil, for Brazil to go out in the quarterfinals of a tournament is a disaster. And if you read the Brazilian press, it is a disaster. The Brazilians are not used to this, and this is going to weigh very heavily on them. Listen, the only good news from a Real Madrid perspective is that Militao, Vini, Enrique, and Rodrigo will now have more days of rest, and they'll be able to join the squad in the early part of the preseason preparation. So from that standpoint, selfishly, it's good news. So far, in terms of the tournament, I think Colombia has played the best football so far, and I think in pure footballing terms, they should be favored. But of course, in terms of history and pedigree, etc., Uruguay and Argentina are probably up there. Okay, let's shift over to the Euro. Now, we have to talk about the England-Switzerland match. This was, I think, a very slow, frustrating match. Of the two matches, the Holland-Turkey was much better. The England-Switzerland match was kind of slow, kind of frustrating. Basically the kind of football that England's been giving us all tournament. They were perhaps a little bit better than in previous matches, but nothing to write home about. They were just, I find that England has a really hard time creating clear chances, and I think it has to do with the fact that the ball rotates so slowly. They circulate the ball very slowly. It's always kind of predictable. They're not really, even on the break, they tend to settle into possession as opposed to really trying to break things on the break. It's just a little bit predictable, and they don't create a lot of chances, I think, on the back of that. Now, look, in terms of Jude, we got to talk about Jude. I think his performance this time, I noticed that he was positioned a lot more on the left. They gave the middle of the pitch to Foden. This has been one of the big debates in terms of the England squad this tournament. I think he had a little bit less freedom than he has in other matches. I think his performance overall was good. I wouldn't say it was stellar, but it was good. He did have a couple of really beautiful technical gestures that, as Madridistas, we love to see this sort of thing. He had a couple of very beautiful moves, a little Zizou-style roulette, and a couple of moments where he sort of dribbled and protected the ball, just really beautiful. But overall, I think he had a good performance, nothing to write home about. But, there you have it. I mean, England is in the semifinals without having played a single good match. I mean, I think they've been just mediocre, but, that's football for you. I think that the only shot on goal was Saka's goal, which was just unbelievable. But there you are, England in the semis. Now, the Holland-Turkey match, this was a much, much better match. I mean, this was really end-to-end, very vertical, much more intense, much more physical. And I thought from a football standpoint, really fascinating because, this match kind of shows you that in football, if you have a higher level of commitment and intensity and are willing to work harder, you can actually offset differences in skill levels. Because I think player for player, Holland has a better side. They're more technical. The quality of the players is higher. But Turkey played with such unbelievable intensity. It was really admirable to see. And I think Turkey, it was very inspiring because they were so vertical, so quick. Every 50-50 ball, they came in with more energy. They were just more committed to every 50-50 ball. But they went up, obviously, in the first half. I think Holland was shell-shocked a little bit. I don't think they were expecting Turkey to be as aggressive as they were. Managed to turn around the situation in the second half. And I think, probably we'd have to say on balance that the better team went through. But I have to say in the last 10 minutes, Holland really, really suffered. And Turkey was, tightening the screws again. Had they played another 10, 15 minutes, that could have easily ended up as a draw. But anyway, in terms of Arda, look, we need to talk about Arda. He's been incredibly impressive in this tournament. I mean, this player, by the way, he plays with complete and total freedom on the pitch. I mean, he's given a complete license to roam anywhere he wants on the pitch. And he's so good at protecting possession and keeping the flow of the game going. So he very rarely gets into situations where he's surrounded and loses possession. He's very good at reading the moment, when to pass, when to circulate the ball, or when to do the one-on-one or the one-on-two. But he shows an incredible maturity. This is a player that has so many unbelievable attributes. The assist in the Turkey goal was amazing. This was a cross with his bad foot. That was his right foot that floated absolutely perfectly over the Dutch defense. He had a couple of strikes from distance that were unbelievable. This kid is so dangerous in front of goal in every capacity. I think this tournament has been fantastic, I think, for his development as a player. But he's already showing us that he is special. There's something special. And he's made that abundantly clear in this tournament. So very, very exciting. This kid is a gem. Now, I'll tell you, from a Real Madrid perspective, there have been some rumors that Real Madrid has offered Arda to go on loan to Real Sociedad. The word is that the player has absolutely, rejected the idea, that he wants to stay in the first team and wants to compete for minutes in the first team. I'm very happy to hear that. I don't want to see Arda go anywhere. I think there will be plenty of opportunities for him to play minutes. He's already proven at the highest level that he can compete at the highest level in very tense matches. So, look, Arda's been spectacular. I think we should all be very, very happy with what we've seen. Okay, the France-Portugal match. Look, Killian, we have to start talking about this. Killian is having a very frustrating tournament. We need to admit that. He tries, but just doesn't seem to create the kind of danger that we're accustomed to seeing him create. His finishing is certainly off. It could be the mask. It could be that, maybe it's, I don't want to make excuses, but, I'm sure that it's uncomfortable to play. Apparently the sweat gets in his eyes and things like that. I don't want to make excuses, but, Killian has been a little bit off, not quite what we're used to. But, hopefully when he comes to Madrid in a much more settled environment, he'll kind of go back to being the Killian of old. In terms of the other Real Madrid players, look, Aurélien, Tchouaméni and Camavinga, I think were very solid. Camavinga, the minutes that he's had, I think has been very solid. He's a very consistent player. Camavinga almost just never lets you down. And Tchouaméni, I think, was solid. He never really dominated matches in the way that we've seen a few times last season at Real Madrid. But I think that we can say, in fairness, Tchouaméni's had a very solid tournament. And of course, it's not over yet. And then, look, we need to mention Cristiano on the Portuguese side. It is, a little bit hard to watch. I mean, Cristiano's, arguably the best player Real Madrid has ever had. You can make that case very strongly. He's an absolute legend and a player, we've been able to enjoy for so many years. It is a little bit disappointing to see him in this situation. If you watch that match against France and even the other ones, he's playing in a very narrow number 9 position. He doesn't have the mobility that he used to go to the wings and pick up the ball. He doesn't backtrack at all or help defensively. He doesn't backtrack to get the ball and try to help in the creation of plays. He literally is just sitting there as a number 9, waiting for the ball to get to him. And it's just so unfortunate to see, because to see a player like Cristiano Ronaldo play in such a limited capacity is really kind of hard to watch. So I don't know. I'm reminded, I obviously followed basketball during the Michael Jordan years in the 90s. And I'll never forget, for those of you that know what I'm talking about, that famous shot against the Utah Jazz, and he retires and then makes the cardinal mistake of coming back to the league with the Wizards. And it was just really hard to watch Jordan in that capacity, because he was such a legend and retired at the top of the game. It was just hard to see. Well, the Cristiano thing reminds me a little bit of that. It's just really unfortunate to see such a frustrated player with such limitations on the pitch. It's not the Cristiano that we know and love. So anyway, those are my thoughts on that. Now let's talk about sort of news, updates, etc. The Mbappe presentation will be, from what I hear, on July 16th. It'll be here at the Bernabeu. Now, the club will be issuing special tickets for this. I don't know if we'll be attending in our usual seats. We have 4 seats in an area called Tribuna. But when they have these kind of events, like the celebration for the Champions League, etc., sometimes they issue different seats and you kind of have to sit somewhere else. In any case, I will definitely attend and take some cool footage of that, which I'll share with you guys. But that, I think, is scheduled for the 16th. And then, of course, he's expected to have surgery on his nose after the presentation. And then, okay, let's talk about the Leno and Alphonso Davies situations. I think these things are about to happen, okay? From what I hear, the Leno situation is very, very close. The club is about to announce it. Lille has been trying to hold out for, anywhere between 50 and 60 million euros. They had initially wanted 100, which was, of course, ridiculous. But look, Lille, I off the top of my head, don't know who the owner of Lille is, but if you know that in 12 months you're going to make 0, but if you sell them today, you might make 40 or 50 million euros. Nobody is that stupid. They aren't going to let him go. Lenny wants to come. So I think that this will happen. Now, Alphonso Davies, very similar situation. Again, he's a free agent in 12 months. Why would you let him leave for free when you can get 40, 50, 60 million today? So I think Bayern Munich, they're a very proud club. They've shown this historically. But money is money, and I have a hard time thinking that they're gonna fight this. There were rumors actually this week that Alphonso Davies has actually been looking for a house in Madrid. So this seems to be quite advanced. And again, I expect that to be announced very, very soon. One thing I do want to mention in these negotiations, one of the things that Real Madrid says without saying, it's kind of implied, is that they want the player to help in the process. So Real Madrid always does its part in terms of putting up the money and trying to facilitate negotiations, but you do need the players to step up, and you need the players to be vocal about their desire to leave and to tell the clubs that they're at, listen, I'm going to go next year anyway, and I'm not going to sign any renewal that you give me, so please, I want to leave. Do this. They need to be vocal. They need to help in the process. It's something that Real Madrid has always demanded of the players in the middle of a transfer negotiation. And I think it's very much the case with Leno and Alphonso Davies. The club is saying, please, tell your club that you want to come. Tell your club that you're leaving next year. Tell them that this is your desire. And it does make a material difference in the negotiations. Okay, very briefly, Rabiot. There were some rumors out there that, Rabiot's a free agent now. Does Rabiot, he said that he wants to come to Madrid, doesn't want to go anywhere else. Of course he does. This is not new. But look, I think Rabiot's a good player. I don't have an issue with him. I think he's a very good midfielder. But he's 29 years old. We have more than enough talent and players that can play in that sort of midfield, because players like Arda and Brahim don't have to play that far up front. They can also play in the middle of the pitch a little bit further back. And we have so many amazing players that can cover those type of positions. And we still, you still have the issue of Ceballos around there, etc. Apparently Nico Paz is going to go to Leganés now. But still, I don't think that this is something that makes sense. I know that he would come for free. And I know that it might be an economically sensible thing to do because you're getting a very good player for nothing. But I just don't think it fits. Why would Real Madrid now bring in a 29-year-old midfielder with all the young talent that we have that are chomping at the bits to get more minutes? It doesn't make any sense to me. So I've heard some discussion about this from what I know, the club, they could bring him in just because it's a bargain, but I would be surprised and I would find it a little bit disruptive. Okay, now, listen, just broader thoughts in terms of next year. This is a unique situation, okay? I don't remember the last time that Real Madrid had so much talent and so young all at once. Ancelotti is going to have a really tough job next year because all of our players, I mean, the quality of players that we have at the stage of development that they're in are going to be competing so intensely for minutes. I don't think ego so much is a problem as is ambition. Okay, this is not an ego thing for guys like Arda or Brahim, etc. It's just that they're ambitious and they want to play and they deserve to play because they're very good. And I just think with Enric coming, Mbappe coming, and you had the Rodrigo Brahim situation already, you had the Arda situation already with lack of minutes. This is going to be very hard to manage. So anyway, look, on the one hand, I'm just really excited about the season because this is exceptional. On the other hand, a little bit concerned about how you're going to manage all of this. But if anybody can do it, Ancelotti can do it. And I'm sure we're going to enjoy some amazing football. But anyway, listen, those are my thoughts up to here. There was quite a bit to catch up on. But thanks for joining me, as always. We'll see you guys in the next video with the latest news, etc. But thank you for joining me, as always. And as always, a la Madrid.